here in Saariselkä, Lapland. Prime Ministers and High Representative will first give their statements, and then we take some time for the questions. So, Prime Minister of Finland, please.
Thank you so much. It's great that we have gathered here in Lapland for this important summit. This has been a very successful meeting. I would like to personally thank each of you for coming here and for your contributions to this important dialogue. Giorgia, Kyriakos, Ulf and Kaja. We have had excellent, constructive and deep discussions by the fireplace. This could have never been possible in Brussels at the formal European Council meetings. We focused on the key issues such as European security, defense and migration. We discussed that the security situation in the Nordic region and the Mediterranean, as well as migration challenges in southern Europe. We heard presentations from commander of the Finnish Defence Forces and Finnish border guards. It was very useful to deepen our understanding of one another's perspectives. We have increasingly aligned on key issues. On the security situation in the north, I have stressed over and over again the fact that Finland has 1,340 kilometers long border with Russia, which is an external EU and NATO border. It's longer than the road from Brussels to Rome. Securing that border and responding to challenges such as instrumentalized migration is an existential question for Finland and for other EU members and NATO allies. I wanted to show, not just tell about, the conditions in which we are doing it every single day. On border challenges, we have deepened our understanding of how the challenges differ across regions. In the south, proximity to African continent and the Middle East region presents challenges. However, the big picture both in the north and in the south remains the same: to secure Europe's external border as shared European responsibility. As conclusions, we must continue support Ukraine for as long and as much as needed. We must strengthen them both in the front and in the negotiation table. It is an existential security question for Europe. We will continue to deepen our cooperation on defense and to secure sustainable financing for defense initiatives. Europe's defense must be strengthened by all possible means. We must explore all financial options. And finally, even though it is the busiest time of the year for him, Santa Claus came to visit us and greet our guests. In addition to working, we have had some time to enjoy the magical nature, the vivid culture, and the delicious food that Finland has to offer. I hope my colleagues will come here again and enjoy all the possibilities that Lapland and Finland have to offer. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much. Then next, Prime Minister of Greek, please.
Of Crete.
Greek.
That's a first. Well, thank you so much, Petteri, for bringing us all together here in Lapland and for the opportunity to meet Santa Claus in person. I think this is a very, very important initiative, bringing together two southern countries, two northern countries, and the High Representative to better understand the security challenges that we each face in our respective regions. It was very instructive for us to understand the particular issues that Finland is facing in terms of managing a 1,300 kilometer border with Russia, but it was also an opportunity for us, me and Georgia, to present the specific security and migration challenges that we face in the eastern and in the central Mediterranean. And I think there are some common threads that emerged out of this discussion. The first is that border protection is an integral part of our migration strategy, and a common priority, regardless of whether you have a land or a sea border, regardless of whether you're in the north, in the south, and better managing this challenge should be a common European endeavor. And of course, this is a topic that we have discussed at the European Council, and I would like to reiterate here from Lapland the necessity to provide additional funding at the European level for not just for border management, but also for the physical constructions that make it more effective for us to manage our borders. On the question of security, I think Petteri was right. There is a common understanding that we need to do more and that we need to be smarter in terms of how we allocate our funds to defense, whether it is at the national level or whether it is at the European level. I personally have been advocating for more flexibility within the new fiscal rules in terms of how we treat defense spending. I think this will be an important incentive for all of us to spend more on defense. But of course, as Petteri said, we need to explore all means in terms of how we will collectively foster our European defense. This is a topic that we will have at the European Council. We will have an extraordinary meeting in December, where I think we need to be open. In February. Yeah, where we will be open about the challenges that we face. And about the need to think out of the box in a changing security environment and at a time when we still need to convince our transatlantic partner that we take our own security seriously, because we need our transatlantic partner within the context of NATO. So thank you again, Petteri, for hosting us. I do want to point out that these informal meetings are always particularly constructive. And thank you for giving us the opportunity not just to visit this beautiful part of your country, but to better understand the security concerns of the Nordic countries.
Okay, thank you very much. And then we have the Prime Minister of Italy, please.
Well, thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. And I really want to thank you, Petteri, for this initiative you came up with, for inviting also Italy. I want to say it not just as a formality. I really think this initiative is very, very important and a very new way of thinking inside of the European Union. For as Kyriakos was saying, the 4 nations that are represented here, but I would say also the 5th, for Kaya was Prime Minister as well, they have often been considered and have often found themselves on opposing sides inside of the European Union, with northern and so-called frugal nations on the one hand, and southern nations on the other, that have often been accused of being, let's say, unruly, although in recent years more out of prejudice. This is my point of view, than actual responsibility. And the fact that these nations now are here today together talking about how to address the major issues that we are trying to face all together shows that we understood the world around us has completely changed. And we cannot seriously tackle some challenges we've got in front of us if we don't try to understand the point of view and the difficulties, the problems that the others face. So I think really this initiative was very, very precious, is very, very precious. I think we should reply it. We know that there are many challenges that European Union is facing. There are mainly 2 topics that Europe cannot escape from. One is the security of our citizens, which is the one we were facing in this edition. The other one is competitiveness of our production system. Maybe could be the idea for the next meeting. As Petteri and Kyriakos were saying, we've been talking a lot about defense, about security. Security means defense. It means that we all understand we have to do more. We all understand that It is important also to guarantee that European pillar of NATO that we've lots of time been talking about during the years. NATO remains absolutely the cornerstone of our security, all the more after the accession of Finland and Sweden. And it must be able to look not only towards its eastern flank, but also towards its southern flank. But security means many other things. It means critical infrastructures, it means artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, means raw materials, means supply chains, means a new and more effective foreign and cooperation policy, means migration, which has been the other big topic we've been discussing about. Over the years, tackling the issue of illegal immigration solely as a solidarity-based debate was a mistake, in my opinion, as this matter is precisely a matter about security. The result is that we have been unable to defend our external borders, and we have put our internal freedom of movement at risk. And hostile players have begun using immigration as a tool for coercion or extortion. And today we are committed to change course. We want to defend our external borders, and we won't allow neither Russia or the criminal organization to undermine our security. So I think it was very important, Petteri. Thank you very much. This was a very clever, very important initiative. I was proud that Italy was invited, and you can always count on me and on Italy.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. And then Prime Minister of Sweden, please.
Thank you so much, and allow me as well, Petteri, to say thank you very, very much. Very constructive discussions in a very constructive group of people. I think this unique geographical mix of countries gathered here is really useful and helpful, blending northern and southern perspectives on the same security concerns. That's Europe at its best. Just a few words to add on. Security, Russia's war of aggression remains the top priority for us and for the European NATO countries as well. Peace through strength needs to be the dogma, needs to be the idea when we go forward. And this specific week, we have also taken steps together to constrain the Russian shadow fleet. I think even further measures against the fleet are needed to be able to protect our coastlines and target the Russian economy. On preparedness and resilience, I think the complex and simultaneous crises we nowadays are more and more used to face, they also emphasize the need to strengthen the EU common preparedness. Emerging hybrid threats from covert sabotage, for example, or the instrumentalization of migration, they both require urgent attention. There are also very good reasons for Sweden and the other Baltic Sea countries to take the damaged underwater cables very, very seriously, and we are doing exactly that right now. Finally, on migration, I think it's important and encouraging, actually, to see this increasing number of EU member states recognizing what we here have already concluded in this group. Uncontrolled immigration without very effective integration simply doesn't work. And nowadays, more or less every country realizes that. And I really, not least, warm thanks to you, Georgia, for emphasizing this every meeting since you took office. I think this growing consensus also is important and should be leveraged now. We need to act faster and we need to go further. Concrete measures from the European Commission is now required, and we had a discussion with Ursula von der Leyen the other day as well on this specific matter. Finally, it really doesn't matter whether you reside in the north or in the south of Europe. Illegal migration is a shared challenge. the precondition for open internal borders is controlled external borders. It is as simply as that, and as difficult, honestly, as that. So it's extremely valuable to come together like this and explore how to show leadership in areas where we all have unique roles to play. So once again, thank you so much, Petri.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And then last but not least, EU's High Representative, please.
Kiitos Petteri kutsusta. Thank you for these excellent discussions, dear colleagues. I think this was really very good to sit down and discuss about these issues. Before I begin, I also want to say, express the sadness of the events that happened in Magdeburg in the Christmas market. So our thoughts go out with the victims and their loved ones. Coming to the summit, so the main topic was security through different aspects. So I think what is fundamental is that Russia poses a direct threat to European security, but security comprises of different elements, and they are different in east, south, north, and west. But we can tackle these issues if we act together. I think this is also fundamental. Security concerns, we can tackle them by investing more into defense, and we discussed how we can do that. Of course, it's not easy. We know these discussions that we have on the European level, but we need to continue this and shoulder more responsibility. We need to find the ways, because to prevent the war, we really need to do more on defense. We have to invest in critical capabilities. That is also very clear. We see all across Europe different hybrid attacks, whether it's sabotage acts, we see cyber attacks, also dangerous shadow fleet, GPS jamming, and damage to cables, but also weaponizing of migration. And of course, it's not always only weaponizing migration by the malign actors, but it's also the criminal organizations that do it. And all these issues strain borders, resources, and also our shared security. So we must be proactive, also in stabilizing the regions of origin when it comes to migration, not just reacting to the pressures at our borders. What I want to stress is that when people are asked what they like about European Union, the first thing they say is free movement of people across Europe. But we can't be both borderless inside and out. That means we need to protect our external borders. And again, I think together we can tackle these issues. Thank you very much for these discussions. I think we had a lot of thoughts to elaborate further, and these also thank you for the Santa Claus. I think we have been good kids because that was nice. And thank you for the excellent welcome here in Lapland. I hope this is not the last time we do it. Thank you. Kiitos, Petteri.
Okay, thank you very much. Now we take some questions, and journalists, kindly present yourself and your media when making the questions. And we start with the biggest group of journalists, that is Italian. Go ahead.
Of the world.
Buongiorno Presidente, Francesco Bechis del Messaggero. Si è parlato molto di migranti, si è parlato anche del modello Italia-Albania. Allora le chiedo se crede che entro marzo potrà arrivare il via libera dall'UE con la lista dei paesi sicuri che può rendere operativi i centri in Albania. E poi, restando in tema migranti, Matteo Salvini è stato assolto nel processo Open Arms. Crede che lui possa ora andare a guidare il Viminale? Grazie.
Guardi, penso, per quello che riguarda Salvini, mi pare un fatto che oggetto del processo a Salvini fossero le sue scelte come ministro degli interni al tempo, quindi le sue scelte politiche, piuttosto che effettivi reati, e sicuramente la giurisdizione in questo caso è stata utilizzata per condizionare la politica, ma penso che oggi siamo, sia io che Matteo Salvini, contenti del lavoro del nostro ottimo ministro degli interni. Per quello che riguarda l'Albania ci vorrà di più per la lista dei paesi sicuri, penso, a livello europeo, ma mi pare anche che la Corte di Cassazione abbia sostanzialmente dato ragione al governo italiano sul fatto che è diritto dei governi stabilire quali sia la lista dei paesi sicuri e nel caso i giudici entrare nel merito del singolo caso in rapporto al paese ma non disapplicare in toto, e quindi io ho convocato per domani una riunione sul tema dell'Albania per capire come procedere. I don't know if you want me to repeat it in English, but it was about internal, mainly about mainly about internal topics.
Sounds good.
I convinced you.
Okay, then we have a journalist from Greek.
Thank you very much. Dimitris Gatsios, Earth News Greece. First of all, Mr. Prime Minister, we would like to thank you about the great hospitality here in Finland.
My pleasure.
So, let me point out that my question concerns the debate that has started on European defence. On February 3rd, a summit will be held which will have as a project precisely the defence of Europe. So I would like to ask if it is time for major decisions, especially since the European Union's facing major geopolitical challenges. Are you optimistic that concrete decisions will be made in 2025? Thank you very much.
So maybe I can start with this.
Why don't you start? Yeah.
Yes. First, February we have the informal discussions, so it is important to have all the ideas on the table. But it's true that we need to do some very important decisions in 25, because the problem with defense is that when you need it, you can't make the decisions. You have to make them much earlier when the times are much more peaceful. So it is clear that the security concerns are very, very high, and we need to decide how we move forward. That, of course, comprises the question of funding, which is the most difficult. And I'm also very happy that we circled some ideas here to develop further how we can, solve this issue. That everybody is willing to also think outside of the box, because the problem is now, and we need to make the decisions. Thank you.
If I may continue, I think it's good that we'll have informal meeting next, so it gives possibility to discuss more and try to find common solutions, and I think it's very good. The fact is that security situation has changed. Russia is permanent and dangerous threat to the European Union and European countries. And we know what we have to continue to support Ukraine as much as needed. We don't know what kind of policy coming President Donald Trump is going to do. What is his commitment to defend Europe, to help Ukraine? That's why we have to be ready also fill the need of financing in the support of Ukraine. That's why we need more money. And what is question? It's how we can do it in EU level. It's clear that in national level we have to increase spending. And now we have same discussions inside the NATO. This is a huge question, but we have to find solutions in next spring.
I don't want to add to repeat what my colleagues said already. I think this answers say also how useful this meeting was. For the occasion we had to talk in a very open way, thinking out loud and sharing our ideas with the colleagues and understand which one could be the other point of view. That makes a difference. The problem is, first of all, we are discussing a lot these weeks about what will happen with the new president of the United States. But as I've been saying already, our main question has to be not what the Americans should do for us, but what we have to do for ourselves. So the topic is, we need in any case to strengthen our capability in defending the security of our citizens. We know we are all committed in that. We know we need tools to do that. We've got our strategies. We have to pursue them with the right tools to make it. We have maybe different starting point of views, we can find in the midway to find a solution which is useful for everyone.
If I just may add on one thing, I think this is the bad security situation is a very good reason for us to start the informal, but also to end up in formal decisions on this complex triangle of responsibilities. We have national responsibilities for our own national defense. That goes also in the Article 3 of the NATO treaty. We have an increasing demand for European communalities in different terms of defense. Preparedness is one good example. Borders is another example. And there is a third pillar that is NATO, so the European pillar of NATO. So it's important to make these three different responsibilities to complement each other, not to compete with each other. And all of these efforts are, as Georgia just mentioned, needed to be done in a way where we don't ask the US to increase their protection of us, but what can we do to increase our protection of ourselves? I think that we have, we can kind of, on these topics, it's worth to elaborate quite quickly to end up in concrete results.
And if I just may add, 4 countries represented here are now members of NATO and the European Union, and it is extremely encouraging for the alliance that as a result of the Russian invasion of Ukraine, we ended up adding 2 countries with significant defense capabilities to the NATO alliance. But I will echo what my colleagues said. We need to take care of our own security priorities, and that is actually the best way to continue to strengthen the transatlantic relationship. Fair burden sharing should be at the center of every alliance, and as was pointed out, it is clear that we need to spend more on defense, but we also need to be smarter in terms of how we allocate these funds, which means better interoperability, common standards, more cooperation within the European defense industry, which, as we know, is currently quite fragmented. And I was quite happy that we have made progress in terms of thinking outside the box, not just in terms of how we will increase our own national contributions, how we spend more on defense, but also what can we do at the European level. Greece is a country that already spends more than 3% of its GDP on defense, and we have done so for many, many years. So we never actually benefited from the peace dividend after the collapse of the Berlin Wall. But now we're in a different security environment. We all need to step up. And the final observation that I would have, especially sort of addressing our Nordic friends, is that this division between the North and the South, which I think Georgia also referred to, is essentially a legacy of the previous decade, when we saw Europe divided along lines which frankly no longer exist. Now it's the southern economies that are growing faster, that are demonstrating a lot of fiscal discipline. So when we ask about more fiscal space to spend on defense, we actually mean it. These are real investments which will strengthen our collective security.
Okay, thank you so much. Then we have Swedish media next.
Hi, Oscar Titi, news agency from Sweden. There have been reports on Trump wanting the NATO countries to increase their defense spending to 5%. What's your thought about this?
Since you're a Swedish journalist, I'll start. Well, yeah, let's start the negotiation here. No, honestly, I think there is a lot of rumors going on, and a lot of reporting on what someone might have said to someone that might have recalled. So basically, let's stay calm. We are all curious, of course, on the new American administration. They will start their formal job in January 20. I think what we just said is obvious, that European countries individually, most of us, and collectively need to strengthen our defense. And let's do that. and let's do it. Partly because we cannot, in the long run, ask for the U.S. to be the kind of the main sponsor of European defense, but also, as Kyriakos mentioned, there's the best way of cultivating the important transatlantic link is to show that we do take our own defense seriously. So I don't have any comments on the actual figures.
It was 2018, on Trump's first period, he visited in Europe and he said, you have to spend more to defense. He was right. He was right. And I think that, and we have seen that he has done the same again. You have to spend more, and he's right again. But what is a number? It is not a question of number. It must be based on security analysis. And we have to work inside the NATO together and find the right level of expenditure. Let's see how it goes.
Yeah. And if I just may add, there's one thing we know, I think, is that the 2% number is probably history. So it will be more than 2%. But let's not put a figure on it, because we all have also our national considerations, and we should not forget that we operate within a European fiscal framework. And whatever we do resonates within our position as members of, in this case, as members of the Eurozone. So we know we will need to spend more than 2%, but it will become very clear, as we've said, once we interact with the new president, what is the figure that we will agree on within NATO.
Okay, then we have the Finnish media.
Thank you. I'm Päivi Lakka from the Finnish public broadcasting company, Yleisradio. My question is about Russia. You have been discussing Russia and other security threats this weekend, and the Finnish media would be interested in hearing how each one of you sees the threat of Russia for today's Europe. And regarding the threat of Russia, Finland considers abandoning the Ottawa Agreement, forbidding the use of anti-personnel landmines, and we would be interested in hearing from the High Representative Kallas if the European Union would have an understanding for a decision like this. So question to Kallas about the Ottawa Agreement, and then Prime Ministers, how you see the threat of Russia for Europe. And if I could kindly ask Prime Minister Meloni to start.
Yes,
Thank
so
you.
I can answer also to the previous question, saying that, in my opinion, about Trump, we should not follow the rumors. I heard, for example, the last things he said about Ukraine, so I come to Russia, saying that, yes, we're working for peace, but we know to have peace, we cannot abandon Ukraine, which has been almost what I've been saying for years. So I would wait to understand exactly which are the real willings of the new president of the United States. On NATO, we all know and understand that we have to do more. A lot of what we can do is up to the tools that, as I've already said, we are able to put on the table. On the Russian threat, a part of my initial speech was on that. I mean, we have to understand the threat is much more wide than we imagine. Okay, it's about our democracy. It is about influencing our public opinions. It is about what happens in Africa. It is about the raw materials. It is about instrumentalization of migration. It's something that we need to know is a very wide idea of security, how to guarantee that security. And it won't stop. It's not only about the war in Ukraine on the ground. It won't stop. And we have to be prepared. It's about Russia today or maybe about another tomorrow. We have to understand that peace and security that we've known for years and we've been given for granted is not granted no more. It's not the case. So that is why today's security and competitiveness, which is another part of this topic, are the main topics on which European Union has to work together with a very determined and concrete way of moving.
I can't add much to what Georgia said. Looking at security in the broadest possible context, we need to recognize that what we're faced with right now in Europe is a new form of hybrid warfare that we need to address. It is disinformation and misinformation campaigns that try to influence our democratic process. And for all of these challenges, we need a coherent response that goes beyond just spending more on defense and continuing to support Ukraine. It's bolstering our own democracies, fighting illegal migration, because illegal migration has also been instrumentalized by other powers. Look, for example, what's happening on the border of Poland with Belarus. These are real security challenges which need to be addressed. So I think we are, if some of us maybe a few years ago believed that we were still in a world that was shaped after the collapse of the Berlin Wall, we, I think, have recognized that we live in a completely different geopolitical reality, and that Europe needs to grow up geopolitically and really achieve its own strategic autonomy in terms of its ability to defend itself across all fronts. Ulf?
I don't have that much to add. I think there are different words for it. I mean, the traditional war, that is obviously very present still. Just have a look at Ukraine. But there are so many other, we call it sometimes hybrid, we call it the gray zone, we call it all these things that makes it harder to really decide whether we are at war or not. So a lot of focus is going on that. Just have a look at a few countries that are heavily influenced right now by Russian propaganda, and very vulnerable also for Russian propaganda. So I quite agree.
I'm so happy that, as you can hear, we share common understanding on Russia. Russia is permanent threat, and it believes only power. And that's why we have to strengthen our defense, our comprehensive security together. And one thing more, we have to understand also that Russia can continue its war. It can continue. We cannot just wait that Russia will collapse because of our sanctions. No. It has resilience to continue the war. And that's why we cannot wait. We have to start to strengthen our defense and comprehensive security as soon as possible.
Mm. Yes, I agree with what was said on Russia. I will just answer the Ottawa agreement. So member states are part of the Ottawa Convention. So it's member states' competence whether they decide to join or not. And of course, these discussions are going on in different member states, not only in Finland, because the one part is that if there's peacetime, the landmines do a lot of damage, especially to animals, but also children, and there are a lot of consequences. On the other side, they are also quite effective when it comes to defense. So these are the discussions that need to be held, and I respect the member states who are having these, but the decision is the member states' decision.
Thank you. Then the very last question goes to the Reuters.
Yes, thank you, Anna Karnen for Reuters News. I would like to ask Kaja Kallas, in your new role as EU Foreign Policy Chief, what is your message to the origin countries of migrants who are willing to risk their lives to come to Europe? And I don't know who is the best person to answer this question, but are EU member states now aligned on third country return centers and how the EU migration rules should change? Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I'm the one doing it.
The question of this. The question is of the stability of the countries of origin as well, and there, good example is Syria, where we work together with the regional partners, because in everybody's interest is that there is stability, peace in the region, and there is not a big flow of migrants. What comes to other countries, then of course we need to sit down with the countries also regarding our comprehensive partnerships. So they have some interests that Europe could offer, but Europe also has interest on European side, tackling the smugglers' networks, for example, that we discussed also quite extensively here, because it's endangering people's lives. What we can do is work together with the regional actors for the stability of different regions where the migrants come. Also different projects that we have, for example, Global Gateway. If you have prosperity in the country, if you have jobs, people don't want to leave their homes. They leave if they have to. Either there is war or there is not possible to live, and that's why we need to help those countries so that the people don't want to leave or don't have to leave their homes, and this is what we can do together.
Yes. On returning policy, European Commission is preparing its proposals on returning policy and under the leadership of Ursula von der Leyen, and I'm looking forward what kind of proposals Commission will give us. But maybe Giorgia, you can continue.
Well, I think you all know what I think about that. I think we've been working quite well in mainly in the last 2 years, understanding how important it was for our security to manage in a different way the topic of migration. Moreover, not allowing criminal organizations to decide who could enter or not in our countries. What we understood during this meeting is that our borders are very different one from the other, so they need different tools. What happens here in Finland when where maybe it is can be useful offense, you cannot do it in the Mediterranean, where we think that the most important thing is to work with the African countries, with the nations of origin and transit. You know that I've been pushing the European Union to make some agreements with those countries to help them. It's not about the last countries, let's say Tunisia or like that. We have to go behind to the countries of origin, and it's a work that we are doing with Ursula von der Leyen. Then I think the rules of the new pact help a bit more the nations to tackle to face this problem. There has to be there have to be better response on returns, and as Petri was saying, we are all working on it, and we have also here to think out of the box. Italy has been the first country making an agreement with a country outside of the European Union to process the requests of the migrants. We're having some problems to interpretation of the rules, of the previous rules and the new rules that we are overcoming in the last days. That was the answer I was giving to the Italian journalists, and I think that is a new way of facing this problem. The criminal organizations, they ask for 5,000 to 9,000 euros a migrant, with the promise they will reach Europe. What if they cannot guarantee those migrants they will reach Europe? That is why the traffickers are very angry with this initiative, and that is why I want to pursue this initiative.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Have a nice day and safe flight back home. Thank you.
Thank you all. Merry Christmas to all. Yeah. You didn't invite Santa Claus to the